Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking, where we'll be talking about building your wealth in your 20s and beyond. Today we have a special guest from the Frank team, Kaval, who is our operations associate. Thank you for joining me, Kaval.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So I think to kick us off, let's maybe talk about a few things from your perspective in terms of what you do when you get your salary at the end of the month. Like, what is like your go-to plan? How do you map out what you're going to do? Like, what's the strategy?
Well, there's quite a few things people can do, and I do. First of all, the most important, do not spend it all at once. As soon as that money comes in at the end of the month, please keep it in there for at least a week before you start spending it. No, but seriously, obviously everyone has expenses and a lot of people have debit orders, whether it be medical aid, car insurance, anything. So obviously strategically set those to the dates after your money comes in, preferably like as soon as your money comes in, so that you don't spend your money on other things and then run out of money to actually pay for these type of expenditure.
Yeah.
But importantly, as soon as it comes in to my account, I know how much money I need to spend on my monthly expenditure and how much money I can put away into a savings account, like a Frank account.
Yeah.
So what really helps me is having like a spreadsheet. So I know how much I'm saving every month, how much I'm spending on food, on petrol, and all my types of expenditure. But also it's important to know that life happens and that you might wake up and find that you need to spend money on something that you didn't plan for. So having an emergency fund is very important. So also having a little bit extra, maybe if it's even in your bank account, just for something that may go wrong.
I love that you like touched on having an emergency fund. I think it's like super important to kind of know that you want that money that you can access at any time if you need emergencies. Like your salary, your disposable income can actually kind of work for you in the future. Anyway, so I love that you touched on that, and I love that you started off with how much debit orders, like I'm pretty sure we all have debit orders that go through the end of the month, whether it's medical aid, whether it's your credit card. So how would you say, as someone in your 20s who has a credit card and credit card debt, how do you kind of navigate making sure that you pay your credit card on time, or rather make sure that you don't get plunged into credit card debt, which I'm sure like a lot of us could be vulnerable to? If you don't pay off our credit card, how do you kind of go about that?
So like being a young adult individual, like the idea of having a credit card is nice because like you might have however many 1,000 Rand limit on your credit card. Say it's like a 20,000 Rand limit, 30,000 Rand limit. People have the wrong idea that saying they have access to these funds, that they can go spend 30,000 Rand, whatever it may be, every month on these credit cards. But most of the banks, this is where they make all their money, is charging you interest on the credit.
Yeah.
So a lot of banks have like a 30-day interest-free period. So what I do is, obviously I know how much I spend on my credit card, and I spend wisely to ensure that the amount I spend in the month, I can pay back within that 30-day period, so I don't incur any interest on it. So ideally, I'm not paying any interest, especially nowadays with interest rates really high. Like my personal Discovery credit card, I know has a 20% interest rate on it. So if I incur 10,000 Rand on my Discovery credit card and I don't pay it back within 30 days, I'm paying 2,000 Rand on that just on interest. So managing that and knowing your limits and how much credit interest you pay is very important.
Yeah, I think agreed. I think we always forget to actually check, especially with the interest rates going up, you forget to check the interest that you pay on your credit card.
Exactly.
And if you don't like pay it off in time and like considering all that interest you might incur. So I love that you touched on that. And maybe do you have any tips for young people who just started working, how to kind of manage their funds in terms of building their wealth?
So, like I mentioned earlier, having a spreadsheet on all your expenses is quite important, but also investing and saving for your future has to be done as early as possible.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the most important things, investing in your future. So even if it's a little bit, it could be 1,000 rand, 100 rand, whatever it is, just get into the habit of investing money in a money market, or if you want to be more aggressive, in an equity market, whenever you can. As the younger you start to invest, the more money you'll have in the future and you won't regret it.
I think that's great tips. Some tips I wish I had when I started working.
Yeah, even me.
You touched on having an emergency fund and equities for long-term goals. Where would you say is the best place to, start saving towards those emergencies, long-term investments like retirement, which is not something we think about as young people. So what tips would you say, or rather platforms you say people should look out for to start those savings?
So there's many different platforms people can use, but honestly speaking, and I'm not just saying it because I'm an employee of Franc, but the Franc app is very easy to use and offers you a safer money market option, or an equity market, which is more aggressive, potentially higher reward but higher risk. Is a great way, easy. You can have a recurring deposit of 1,000 rand or any amount per month or per week, and before you know it, that amount just adds up, and you'll have a lot saved up for if an emergency arises, or for a planned trip, or anything, just for your retirement or anything. So it's a great platform to use and very easy.
I agree. It's super easy to get started, I think. Yeah.
Like, honestly speaking, like, obviously you learn about money when you're young, when you're in school, spend money on food, going out with your friends, whatever. But often, like, I would have like a small allowance every week, which I would spend at like a tuck shop or whatever growing up. But if I knew what I know now about investing in my future, like, I would have got the Franc app, if it was around, or an app similar to it, earlier on, so that I can always just save even like 100 rand a week or whatever it was, because it just really helps in the long term.
Yeah, that's true, because you can start with however much you have, whatever money that you have available to put away.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you. And just on that, and saving how much you have, disposable income you have, what would you say are some side hustles? I know, like, the economy is looking a bit shaky. What side hustles do you think people, like safe side hustles, people can get into to kind of have that disposable income, especially as us young people? We have all this time, all these resources, and quite frankly, we need the funds. So what would you say is like the best place to kind of start with side hustles, whether it is, I think you can.
So I don't really have a side hustle per se, like a side business.
Yeah.
But an easy way for people to just get that extra cash is by selling old clothes or anything around the house that you don't really use. Like, I'm sure you have lots of things in your house. Like, I don't know when last you used some of your kitchen appliances, Annalisa, or anything like that. But anything. It can be clothes. It could be your old textbooks, or any utensils, technology, whatever it is. Just list them on Facebook Marketplace as an example, or Gumtree, and just get like some extra cash which you can use to invest. I don't know, any side hustles that you know of?
Yeah, I think that's a great one. You can also, like I think you mentioned, selling it pre-loved goods, like pre-loved clothing. There's apps and like platforms that you can do that. Like, I know, like, I do a lot of that when I do like a seasonal cleanup of my wardrobe, like selling pre-loved goods that I think are still like quite in good shape to sell. As well as, I wouldn't say my kitchen appliances, because I still use those. But rather,
I'm
yeah,
sure.
rather like pre-loved things that I think are I don't really truly need anymore. I also think I think we talked about like side hustles and like in terms of spending. I've also think I've come to have the habit of sort of not buying, I would say purchasing more sustainable type of clothing in terms of not buying a lot of, let's say, denim jeans that I know that I'm not going to wear throughout the winter, but rather buying one quality good jean where I know I can wear it for a couple of years to like save money, you know? So I think obviously it's good to have like, you know, side hustles if you think you need the extra income, but it's also important to remind yourself that I also need to save what I do have. Like, do I really need, you know, do you need those Jordans that you were talking about last week? Do you really?
I think that was a
'Cause you
need.
have
That was definitely a need.
you
No,
have
but
five
I understand.
pairs.
Like,
Yeah.
you make a good point because, like, people, like, you know, understand there's a difference between a want and
Yeah.
a need. And, like, do you really need it? Or
Yeah.
is it just something you want? And, like, a lot of things people want is part of the fashion or the trend
trends,
at the
yeah.
moment. And you buy something in the moment that is trendy for, like, a couple months. But are you really going to be using that same whatever it is in a
Yeah.
year's time?
Yeah.
And if you're not, if you are, then cool, it's fine. But if you're not, it's gonna go to waste. Then don't buy it. And if you already bought it, then you can list it on Facebook Marketplace or anywhere and sell it.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I love that point because I think our generation is very, you know, you want to have the best of whatever. You see a designer sunglass and you want it, but do you really need
Well,
it?
especially in
Is
Cape Town.
also, can you afford it? Is the good question. Like, if you're going to stretch out your salary and you're not going to make it to the end of the month because of an item, like, you need to kind of start mapping out your priorities and figuring out what you're actually doing, because that is not really something
I was going to say, if you're
get
looking
into the habit
for
of.
designer sunglasses in Cape Town, you're not going to use it for at least 4 months during winter with all the
True.
rain we're having at the moment.
True.
So, yeah,
Thank you so much. I think
not a
you
problem. It is
touched on a lot of things.
it's great being here.
Yeah, it was a good chat. Love that you are mapping out kind of your financial goals and priorities. I think that is a habit that most of us should start having in our 20s. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Frankly Speaking. See you next time.